I was those Men in Black. I was watching Men in Black.
Wait, you saw Men in Black?
Yeah, it was streaming on Netflix the other day.
What do you mean streaming on Mac? Wait a minute. Are we talking about
Oh, you're talking about the
the
real Men in Black.
It's so stupid.
Hey, welcome back. It's been a while.
Welcome back, guys. Yeah, it has been a little while. We took a little hiatus there. We've got stuff going on. I got hung up by fantasy football. We got hung up by family stuff and everything, but we are back, and we'll be talking about the Men in Black. So, again, World of Unknown. I'm Danny.
I'm Trevor.
Welcome back, guys. Let's jump right into it, man. The Men in Black. And we're not talking about the dumb, I shouldn't say dumb, but
no,
the
good
movies.
I like the movies.
Exactly. And we're going to talk about
good.
the nexus of where that idea came from, And obviously they say it's a comic book, but the comics came from an actual idea.
Yeah, something actually, everything gets manifested from something real.
Exactly. So, let's get into it, man. This happens way back in the 1940s.
That's the first reported sighting.
The first actual reported sighting that we have going on, and strange enough, is back in June of 1947. Actually, just kind of days before the Kenneth Arnold sighting over Mount Rainier of the flying saucers. If you don't know who Kenneth Arnold is, I think we're going to have an episode to jump into that. Up in Seattle, Washington area, Rainier, Kenneth Arnold had seen a flying saucer where he had coined the flying saucer. Yeah. So days before, we have a gentleman named
Harold Dahl.
Harold Dahl was supposedly out in Puget Sound.
This is kind of a sad story, actually.
It is. He was on a boat with his son and dog. And where they saw, he said 6 donut-shaped flying objects above his boat, where one of the objects kind of just... I didn't get how it fell, but it just kind of crashed, basically. It just kind of fell apart.
His son got hurt and his dog died.
By the debris, exactly. Yeah. So he actually came back, and he was telling a fellow worker who was actually a supervisor at his place, I guess, and I don't know if it was the very next day or just later on that day, about it. It was the guy's last name was Crispin. And Crispin went out there to check on the story, and he found stuff out there too of the debris and everything. And I think he even saw some of the vehicles.
I think he did say he saw some of it too. Yeah.
Right. So supposedly they had collected some of the stuff, and they were visited by some Men in Black, which took over which we were them. They took the stuff. They didn't really tell anybody about this stuff. So as soon as they got this. Debris and which was kind of a white metallic. It was a weird stuff that they didn't know about,
Yeah.
These government agent Men in Black came in without them telling anybody, just knew about it. It's like, we know what you have. They took the stuff.
You need to give it to us.
Give it to us. So they took it all, and they said this never happened. So the story somehow got out, and later, and it's also known as the Maury Island incident. And also people came out later and said, well, that was just a hoax. I'm like, was it a hoax because the Men in Black told them?
It was a hoax?
That's what they said. The difference, it came out the hoax. These guys just said, no, it's just a hoax. But the story goes like, well, maybe that's because the Men in Black told them, like, no, this never happened. So maybe they did tell some people.
And they got discredited.
And for them, obviously, to save their skin, kind of said, like, you know what? No, we were just joking. Yeah, that didn't happen.
Or maybe they got a second visit from these Men in Black.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying, that these Men in Black kind of forced them to be like, no, this never happened. And they had maybe already told some people, and they got the word got out, because I think even something was kind of going around town. And they're like, no, that was just a hoax. That didn't ever happen, really. But was it a hoax, again, because the Men in Black told them that, or, whatever? So that's one of the first stories that come out of Men in Black. Yeah, that's
the first one. And I'm going to tell you guys this, is when you watch the movie, is the real Men in Black, the stories that we're getting, are nothing like the movie. Like, these people aren't good people. It's a lot of nefarious things and a lot of...
It's a lot of...
it's just...
A group of...
Strong-arm.
Whoever, strong-arm people and telling them, you're not going to talk about this.
Yeah, or else kind
of thing. So it's not like the fun... Right, exactly.
They'll threaten family, they'll threaten you.
It's not Tommy Lee Jones or Will Smith. Although Will Smith will slap you, but it's none of that.
Yeah.
Right. So... So the next guy on the list we're going to talk about is a guy named Albert Bender.
Okay.
So
what did he do?
Yeah, well, this guy, looking in and hearing some other podcasts and reading some stuff, this guy was kind of nerdy UFO guy, kind of like all of us. You get into it, and back then, since in the early 50s when the UFO craze was going off, it was after Roswell and the Kenneth Arnold flare incidents and all that stuff. He made his own group called the IFSB, which is the International Flying Saucer Bureau. When his part got a lot of members, and they were investigate stuff and get information, research. He actually put out a little newsletter and stuff and everything. I mean, it was pretty good. As nerdy and dumb as it sounds, it's nothing any different than we're doing. He even had little business cards going out there when you couldn't just go out anywhere and get
pretty
business
legit.
cards.
That's pretty
exactly
cool.
Right. So business cards going out, and everything was going great, and he was starting getting quite a few members. I don't know exactly the member account, but there was quite a few people going on, and we're suddenly abruptly. He said, "Okay, we're stopping this. We're not doing this no more." And his friends were like, "Well, what's going on? This thing is just getting going. We're just." He even put the newsletter. This is our last final newsletter. Bender had supposedly said that he was approached by 3 men who told them, they told him, "Hey, you're going to have to shut this down."
Okay, but what was he looking into that you need? Like, it wasn't like he saw a UFO or
Right.
Because usually they show up when you
see something.
seen something.
Right. These are just collecting data and just collecting research and talking to people. So they're like amateur and UFO investigators themselves.
Yeah, but that's real easy to debunk.
So when this guy, right. I mean, so when he was going through, he called these guys. So when he told the story, he said he called these guys silencers because they're telling him,
Which technically that's what they are. Yeah.
They're telling you got to be silencers. They warned him to stop his research and took his proof and some items of stuff that he had away from him. He claimed that they had talked to him, but they had talked to him telepathically. Like
yeah,
when they approached him,
They
didn't really use his words.
Yeah, didn't say a word. They just told him, which is interesting.
And they affected him after this. Physically and mentally, he was just distraught. His friends were kind of like they suspected that Bender probably was just dreaming this or just had an episode or something because he was really like a lucid dream or something. Bender had claimed that he had a second visitation from the men. I don't know how long later. Supposedly at this time, the men didn't stand on the floor, but they kind of hovered above it, basically.
Oh, he's getting into a story now.
Yeah, they looked like clergymen, and they had the similar style. Their faces were not clearly discernible because their hats would partially, shade them. Their eyes all lit up like flashlight bulbs, he said.
So hold up, they look like clergymen?
Yes.
Okay, so this is almost starting to sound like a possession.
Basically, right? Like
now they're hovering.
Exactly. And their eyes
lit up
like flashlights, and it seemed to burn into my soul. So this is the book from the Flying Saucer, a 1962 book that this quote was from, The Flying Saucers and the Three Men. So the club's final issue newsletter said, announced the disbanding of the club, reported the mystery of the flying saucers is no longer a mystery. The source has already known any information about this is being withheld by orders from up higher, is what his final newsletter said.
That's probably why he got his second visit.
Right, exactly. They're like, stop talking about it.
Right? Dude, I told you that we weren't here.
Right, exactly.
And now you're saying we were here.
So whoever that visited this guy really scared him enough where
he just quit.
He quit, right? Regardless of the weird story or something, but it was intimidating enough that he just kind of like, we're done. And people were thinking like, well, this guy maybe just didn't have enough. I'm like, well, but this guy was totally into it, and the club was just getting. It was like a year and a half. The club was
like a
just
brand new baby,
going,
and he's all
they
excited
were having fun
about
doing this stuff. So, of any way to kind of, I don't know. I mean, could he have been fake?
Well, some had to scare him.
Some had to scare him. If anything, it did a different way to do it, but to suddenly just abruptly stop like that. And this dude's kind of dropped out, basically. I mean, he just...
Yeah, okay. Well, there's a couple things that could have happened. He could have had a psychological break.
Yep.
And he thinks he saw some shit. And,
right.
Like he could have had, like they said, lucid dreams where he's himself telling himself, hey,
maybe because he's so deep into it. Maybe.
Yeah, he could have just kind of went down the wrong rabbit hole and things went haywire. But it is weird that for some reason, or in all honesty, like... we don't know what's going on in his personal life. Like maybe someone close to him died, and all of a sudden he just lost the drive.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And he just thought, it's a UFO group. Maybe this is a good way just to send him off, and just wanting more.
And just kind of and then like show him. There's no I don't have to explain myself. And
right. And a lot of this personality stuff we're just getting from hearsay and from other people who kind of knew him. We don't know if they knew him. Like they're like, oh, he was nerdy. He was kind of like OCD and everything. So, but we don't know that for sure. We don't know the guy. We don't know family that knew him. Exactly. So just because people say, well, he would never do that, we don't know that for sure. We don't know that he would go out and make
maybe these people don't even know that. They might not even known him for 4 months.
Right. So I'll tell you a person who did know him is a guy named Gray Barker. And Gray Barker is an actual writer and stuff. And he wrote actually a famous book. It's called They Know Too Much About Flying Saucers.
Okay.
Gray Barker knew Albert Bender because he was one of the members.
Okay, he was one of like the founding
members. One of the members in there. But Gray Barker was a little weird. So the thing I get from him, Gray Barker was kind of like a skeptic. He was more like a writer. He liked to write, but he was also a little bit of a believer, enough to join this group. But he was also a hoaxer. He's a really weird dude. It kind of reminds me of kind of us a little bit. Like we're believers, we're skeptics, but we're also jokesters. But this guy would do stuff, from my understanding. He would, I had heard that he had called other members pretending to be Men in Black just to fuck with them. He would kind of coax stories out of people, like since he's a writer, try to spice it up a little bit. He goes, so what else happened? So could you say that these guys did this and this? And so...
Well, what if he did a prank on his buddy and it got taken a little too far?
Well, about Bender you're talking about?
Yeah. He might have pranked Bender.
I didn't even think about that, yeah.
He might have got a buddy, him and a buddy might have went up there and just fucked with
them so bad, or he could have hired somebody.
He got that scared to where he quit.
And Gray didn't say anything about it because, like, well, fuck, I didn't want that to happen. I didn't know he was going to do that.
Yeah, and then everyone else.
I didn't even think about it. Maybe.
That could.
They said
he was a
guy
prankster.
And he was always trying to get, like he's writing books about the stuff. So he was always trying to get stuff to write books and spice it up a bit. There's one of the books that written about Bender, and I think Bender had written that Gray Barker supposedly helped him on and kind of helped, jazz it up a little bit. So
now he's tweaking what he wants.
Right. So this guy was interesting because was he a believer, or was he just in this group to get stories to sell because he knew at the time UFOs were selling a UFO story?
Dude, I'm kind of thinking
he's just getting it so he can get the story going.
You know what? He might have been like you said, like he was a believer, kind of. Yeah. And when he got in it, he goes, man, I can really have fun in this group.
And I can make money off these people are selling stories.
Yeah. And then he just took it a little too far.
What if he was actually one of the Men in Black and he wasn't in there just to purposely make these stories go crazy?
That's actually very true. We don't know.
Never thought about that.
That's a good angle, too.
They send this guy in, like, okay, Gray, you're going to go in there.
You're a
normal guy. You're a writer. That's why you're there, because you get information. But you're going to start gently. That's why he's a hoaxer.
Break him from the inside.
Which he did with Bender. You got that. If it was him,
that's
you
smart.
got that guy good. So anyway, so that guy's smart. He did write a book, which actually became a pretty good seller. They knew too much about flying saucers.
Okay, this next one is one of my favorites. It happened in 1967 in Ohio.
Right. Okay.
Now,
what's this guy's name?
It's Robert Richardson.
All right, 96. Now, in Toledo, Ohio. Right?
I'm going to set the scene.
Yes, please do.
It's, let's say it's like 9 o'clock at night, dark. You're driving down a lone road.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, bam. You get hit by a flying saucer.
No, boy, that ruins your day.
Yeah, head-on collision with a flying saucer.
Insurance is not going to cover that at all.
How are you going to tell that? Yeah, exactly. You're going to go home to the wife and she's like, did you hit a deer again? You're like, no, this was a flying saucer.
She's like, that's bullshit.
And the only thing that's left, the only thing that's left is a piece of
my mother was right.
Saucer.
Yes.
Little piece of metal.
Right.
That's all you got for your story.
Right. That you got it. So supposedly
you got a damaged car and a little piece of metal.
Right. So this is the story that Robert Richards was telling me.
That he told people,
right, exactly. Which is if you heard this from a buddy, you're like, dude, how drunk were you?
Yeah. What were you on?
That's right. This is just a piece of a tree, you idiot.
Yeah,
right, exactly.
Hey, I told you to get off the moonshine.
Right, exactly. But supposedly this guy was visited by the Men in Black, right?
Because he had that piece of metal.
Who took that piece of metal from him and said this never happened, basically, right?
Yeah, didn't they? I thought they threatened his wife, right?
Right.
They said, if you want your wife to keep looking as pretty as she is, you'll give us the piece of metal and not talk about this. And that's
basically the underlying story. Whenever you get these visits from these guys that take any evidence or any information you have about it, and they tell you, like, you're not talking about this anymore.
You're done.
And they obviously they're always intimidating figures. Whether they even the interesting is whether you even look. Okay, well we'll get into that later. But these are always intimidating people that come in and tell you to stop stuff, no matter how weird they look or not. That's part of the whole thing. And that's the basic underlying story.
Yeah, like they'll threaten your family,
yourself,
or
whatever.
Something bad's going to happen to you. You know.
So we go into 1968 New Jersey is Jack Robinson.
Oh, this is the photo, huh?
This is the photo. Okay, so this guy was a UFO researcher. All these guys are obviously amateur UFO researchers. And he had him and his wife had noticed this man in a black suit, and they lived, I think, it's in New Jersey. So it's one of those apartments up, in the city. They live up above and stuff.
Yeah.
And below are kind of like the shops sometimes or whatever. But they noticed this man in a black suit outside on their side of the building looking up into their window and hanging out there for days. He would stay out there all day long, and then he would leave, and then he would show up again the next day. So
someone owed money.
Maybe, right? Who knows? I mean, I always figured, like, how do they know it was, their apartment he's looking at? You could just be looking at, I don't know.
What if he was a bird watcher and there was a nest?
Maybe.
Right there.
I mean, what if it was the apartment underneath him or above him or next to him? I don't know. Anyways, I don't know how high up they were, but they were noticing that he was looking at their apartments, basically windows, or it looked like it was. So they had told their neighbor friend, this guy named Timothy Green Beckley, which was from, we had watched a History Channel show about the UFO stuff, and you actually got to see this guy. And this guy heard about it, so he kind of managed to go around the block, get his photo, and kind of snap a photo, because there's no photos of these men in black. Supposedly, they know you're coming, so he actually got a photo. And I'll put the photo here, when you guys can see. This photo, though, when you look at it could just be a dude hanging outside the building in a dark suit.
It looked
this is in the 60s. Everyone's wearing dark. I mean, even now you got people wearing dark suits, but it just, he keeps saying, like, this is claim of an actual man in black. I'm like, this is a guy wearing a black suit. Does not claim nothing.
That guy could have been doing a smoke break for all we know.
Smoke break. It could have just been waiting for the bus. He could have been just hanging outside his building.
So, you just see a guy leaning against the building.
Yeah.
In a black trench coat.
Yeah.
In a hat of the time.
Yeah.
It
looks like any other person working downtown, at that time, or even you can, like I said, now not as many black suits, but you had it. So I'll put the photo there. You guys can see for yourself. But
see what you think.
Again, he claims this is an actual Men in Black. To me, I'm just like, and not that I disbelieve Men in Black, but I'm like, this could just be anybody. This is just a guy in a black suit, basically, hanging outside a building. That's what it looked like to me.
I have two theories.
Yeah.
One is the guy owed money. And this was a collector, kind of like waiting for him to come down.
Kind of intimidate him, yeah.
And the way he fucked up was he kept looking at the thing.
Yeah.
And then the guy's like, well, I'm not going down there.
Right. Well, maybe he was purpose to do it anyways.
And then he kept coming back.
Yeah.
Two is, this couple might have got real promiscuous one day in the window. And this guy's a peeping Tom.
Yes.
And he's like, maybe I can get another show if I just stay here long enough.
He's like, yeah, my buddy told me to hang out here. I want to get myself a show.
For all we know.
That's why you had cigarettes.
For all we know, it might have been different guys, and they were just kind of waiting for the show to pop up.
Waiting for the show to pop up. Stand here for show. Exactly. Yeah. Faux show.
Yeah.
All right. So that was Jack Robinson, 1968. Then that was the first official kind of photo we had of Men in Black, if you believe that.
Now, the next story is interesting.
The next story gets really good. So this happened in 1976. Actually, September 11th, 1976. I didn't just notice that date. September 11th, 1976. Supposedly this happened.
76. Okay. So we have 47, 67, 76.
Or just September 11th.
That's off our 1 year.
Yeah. So Dr. Herbert Hopkins. So Dr. Herbert Hopkins is a doctor of chemistry. He was also a hypnotist, basically. Yeah. And he was another UFO researcher. He was helping on a case. It was the David Stevens and Glenn Gray case. And I think it was like an abduction case. And it was basically, he was talking to a David Stevens. So in the middle of doing this in September 1967, Hopkins was alone at the time. I don't think his wife was there, and I don't remember.
No. It was just him.
It was just him.
Yeah.
Right. He got a call from a guy claiming to be from a UFO research group from New Jersey. Yeah. Which whatever branch that was, which actually didn't exist, but he didn't know that. He just goes, hey, I want to talk to you about the Stevens case that you're on. The guy's like, okay. And it's weird because the story goes like, well, Hopkins, who normally doesn't do it, said okay and let this guy in. He goes, I normally don't do that. But I'm like...
Yeah, but also this is another weird one. This is 67. There's no cell phones.
Right.
The guy called, Hopkins hung up, turned the light on for the porch.
Yes.
And by the time he did that, which is couple seconds, the guy was walking up his
He
stairs.
was already there, basically. Yeah, and caught Hopkins off guard.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay. And there's no payphones nearby.
There's no payphones. There's no cell phones. So
the guy
that's
was basically
weird.
already there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is weird. I mean, nowadays it'd be like, yeah, he's on the cell phone, but yeah, there's no cell phones there. There's no
unless someone called and then they walkie-talkie, someone would be like, "Hey, walk
there's
up now."
Really, no car phone. I didn't think car phones came until the 80s.
car phones like 80s. Yeah, that's that big brick of a car phone.
Someone might say, hey, they could have somebody there. Okay, possibly, but it's very weird that this guy showed up there.
Right on, like walking up the steps.
I didn't mention about any car that this guy was in. I don't know if he noticed the time, but
no, he did. He said that it was a black 4-door sedan,
right.
And then he didn't see markings.
So obviously, there's just one man. This guy's dressed in not really black, but all dark navy, from what I read.
Yeah, he said dark navy,
dark
not
navy,
black.
Wearing even dark navy gloves. This guy had a really pasty
weird face.
Weird face,
like a plastic surgery gone wrong.
Suit's almost kind of too big for him. Basically, he comes in very monotone. He talk. He said inhuman.
Oh my God! You know. That reminds me of the first Men in Black movie with the cockroach.
Yes.
And he took over the guy's skin.
Right. Kind of like that.
Yeah,
kind
so
of
maybe they got that from that.
Right. Yeah. He was very
weird talking.
And his movements were all weird and janky.
He had red lipstick.
Right. Well, yeah, so he was talking to him, and he's asking about information about the Stevens case, basically, where he noticed, Hopkins noticed the guy kept doing this. Touched his lips with the back of his glove, and he noticed that there was a red mark, and that's when he noticed the guy didn't really have lips. He had lipstick there to make the lip, and that's the only kind of color he had on him was the red lips, which is very weird.
Yeah, why are you going to do that? Like,
guys
trying to make your lips look
with
alive?
my lips, and that's when he knows like this guy doesn't have lips. He just has like a slit,
and he didn't have any eyelashes.
No eyebrows, no hair anywhere,
no eyelashes.
Right.
And the case that he was looking into, the guy had a heart attack, right?
No. That's not part of that. The guy was abducted. It was Stevens.
I forgot, but someone did have a heart attack.
Right. We're going to get to that. So going to the and letting this guy in, Hopkins are like, normally I wouldn't let someone like this in when I see him, but I just felt compelled.
Let that creepy fucking guy.
When this guy came up, I felt compelled, even on the phone, to say yes.
No.
To have this guy come in, because no matter how worried he was, I felt compelled to be like, yeah, come on in, we'll talk about this. So all these bells, you're thinking like, well, why would this guy let him in? He goes, well, that's what Hopkins was saying. He's like, I don't know why I let him in. This guy was so fucking weird. I mean, if I was in my right mind, I would have said, hell no, you're not coming into my house. So
that's the telepath type thing.
That's kind of thing, maybe. Like suggestive kind of stuff, that letting stuff in. So lets the guy in, he starts talking about it, and he starts asking about the Stevens case and how much he got. And then when he kind of felt like he was kind of satisfied with it, he let me get my my notes here. And this is kind of a deep story. He suddenly, the man goes like, because you have a couple of coins in your pocket, take one of those out. Hopkins was like, okay, and he actually did, which it was not that big of a stretch to guess.
It was like a nickel, right?
Yeah, it was not that big of a stretch to guess you have coins in your pocket. I mean, any magician do that. He's like, all right, so he took one out, and the guy kind of just had Hopkins look at the coin. So he's looking at the coin, and Hopkins said suddenly his sight kind of got like fuzzy and out of focus. The coin kind of looked like it turned like a bluish color, and then it just disappeared.
Well, it was silver, it went to copper,
okay,
then it went to blue, and then that's when he said everything got the coin. He said the coin got real blurry,
nothing,
and then disappeared. Like it was like going back in time as its element.
Right. So when that happened, the guy said, the coin. Well, I'm trying to get the quote here that the guy said about it. He goes, the coin made the and see.
Oh, you want the quote that he said? Well, yeah. So Hopkins asked him a question. Like, I think he said, did the guy have a heart attack?
No. Hold on. We're going to talk about the coin first. He goes, well, that's a very interesting magic trick. And the guy's like, the coin was no longer going to be ever seen ever in this dimension or this something again. Basically, the coin's gone because you'll never see it here ever again. Nobody will ever see this coin in this dimension again. Something like that.
Okay.
So as the guy's asking, he asked Hopkins, he goes, do you know Betty and Barney Hill?
That's what it was, yes.
And then he's like, yeah, I know of them. You know, at this time, Barney Hill had just...
he died of a heart attack,
He had just died. He goes, do you know what he died of? He goes, you know what Barney died of? And he was like, I don't know. I think I heard it was a heart attack. He goes, no. He goes, he did not have a heart attack, just as he goes, he didn't die of a heart attack. He died that he no longer has a heart, just like
you don't have that
just
coin.
Like you don't have a coin. Basically threatening him like, what I did to the coin, I did to Barney
anything.
Hill, and I can do to you. Then he starts telling him like, he kind of said he didn't like demand it or anything. He just goes, you have a tape recording of the Stevens case. He's not asking. He was just kind of stating, not even threatening. He goes, you will destroy that tape and any of the other documentation related to the case, and you'll no longer talk about this. Again, all monotone, not even a threatening line, just kind of stated as a fact, like he's just stating his thing. And then Hopkins is like, okay. So the whole coin and heart thing indicating that if he didn't, his heart would be...
He could literally take his heart out without even touching it.
Interesting enough, it wasn't a heart attack with Barney Hill. It was something else. But I mean,
Hopkins. Well, that guy didn't know that at the time.
Yeah, he didn't know that at the time. Yeah, he didn't know. But,
he was. I think he guessed. He goes, "Didn't he have a heart attack?"
Right.
And then that's when the guy said that.
Yes. And at this point, the man kind of started slowing his speech. The visitor, the Men in Black guy.
Oh yeah, he said he was acting real lethargic.
He started lethargic, and he kind of even said like,
he goes, my energy is low.
My energy is low. She gets up like he's going to leave, and he starts kind of staggering, and he starts going opposite to where the door was up. And he kind of goes to the corner, and he's kind of holding up. He kind of goes around the corner, and he's just gone. Hopkins, he didn't leave the house, so Hopkins goes around the corner, and he's just like, he was just disappeared. He's like, what the fuck did he go? Then he saw like a bright light outside his window. And it was gone. So he went outside to see. He didn't see any cars leaving. You know, I guess it's more towards night. It was nighttime. There was no car. There was nothing. So the vehicle was not. There was nothing there. He didn't see anything leaving. It was just a bright light.
That's a good magic trick.
Which, yeah, exactly. That would. And it goes in. Again, it could have been headlights, but he didn't see any other headlights anywhere near him. That usually if you see headlights, you can see them going away. So I didn't see anything leaving. I didn't see anything at all. Just a bright light. The dude, his car, everything was gone. Obviously, this is all from what Hopkins said.
At that time, he could have just drove with the lights off too.
He could have, right? But if anything, the dude just disappeared basically out of his house.
He
just kind of was gone. It didn't like he leave out the front door. He acted weird. Oh, I'm running low on energy, and suddenly he goes around the corner and he's just gone. Hopkins did destroy everything. You know, he got rid of what he said. I mean, he was kind of freaked out a little bit. And although he said later on, he goes, "I wish anyone would have done that," but it's understandable. You got this weird visitation. You got all this weird high strangeness that goes on that sets you on edge.
You know what?
What's...
So I'm thinking, all right, so he gets the phone call. So
yes.
Somebody called him. It wasn't he never said it was the same guy.
That's true.
So someone called him. Yep. This weird looking guy comes up. Is there, right?
Right.
Car's behind him. Guy walks up. He's like, oh shit, the guy's here.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, it could have been someone else.
While he's talking with this guy, someone could have took the car, moved it, had another car waiting for this guy because he said he looked at the same area.
Yes.
Who says that guy went the same way?
That's true.
And then the guy went opposite from the door.
Yep.
And then disappeared.
Could have just dumped out the back door.
This could have all been a ploy to just freak him the fuck out.
That's right. It could have been.
That's why the guy kept touching the lips. Yeah, that's why he was like, "Oh, my energy's low." Like it could have all been a play.
It's all a play just to
freak this guy out. And be like,
they did want him to be quiet, but they go, "Look, he's not going to stop doing because we sent government guys there. We need to scare the shit out of him."
And that would have scared the shit out of him.
Use the past stories from before, from the Bender thing and everything, to really scare the shit out of this guy.
And then we just disappear.
It's true. They could pull it off. It wasn't like it was a really...
no, I guarantee you I could find someone that could pull that off today.
Only thing is the coin thing. It's the only thing I would say. How would they do that? I don't know. I don't know if how that would be done.
I'm sure there's a way. You can ask a magician. I guarantee you the magician could tell you how to do some shit like that.
Probably.
Because that's all more...
I couldn't get... If the coin, I thought it was in Hopkins, and then one story I read it's on the visitor's hand. The other one I read it's a Hopkins' hands. I don't know whose hand it was in.
When I read it, it was in the agent's hand.
Okay, so if it's the agent's hands, yes, then it's going to be a magic trick.
And also, you said Dr. Hopkins was a hypnotist.
Yes.
You didn't say that he's not susceptible to being hypnotized.
That's true.
If he is,
yeah,
this is all really easily getting done.
That's true. Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah.
And if they did their homework, they know that.
Right. Exactly.
So they could have played a joke on him.
I like that someone could have gone and some government agents could have gone in and like, okay, we want this guy to be quiet because he's touching on stuff that we don't want him to touch on, regardless of what it is. Like you said, it's that whatever the reason is, then they could have done that to him. They really, yeah.
Because for all we know, whatever he was looking into, everyone thinks it's like, so this is my thing. Everyone thinks it's UFO related.
Yeah.
But there might be something behind it that you don't know what you're really looking into.
Right.
You're stumped. You're like, oh man, I got a UFO. And in fact, you might be seeing a murder.
Top secret.
Or a top
murder,
secret thing.
Yeah.
And like now you're getting visited by people going, hey, we need to make sure he does not talk about this.
Right. That's true.
This can't get out.
This can't get out because this can lead to this and this and this and us getting
And then you got some really good sleight of hand motherfuckers.
Which doesn't take away. It's still a Men in Black keeping you quiet.
If they're doing this, if they're doing this 100%,
right.
that is legit cool things.
Right.
Like you can sit there and sleight of hand somebody or just mind fuck somebody to the point where they're like,
scare the shit out of them. Like, oh yeah.
Immediately he went and he destroyed everything.
Right.
He goes, yeah, this was a really weird experience.
Right.
I don't want to do this again.
It was enough that they would think that if they just came in and just strong armed him with a gun.
Because he didn't threaten him.
Right.
He just implied, which is a lot of hypnotists just imply things to do.
Right.
And then the coin thing, it was, when I read it, it was in the agent's hand. He took it out of his and he goes, look at this.
Right.
And that's when he did it.
And I'm thinking, some people are thinking like, well, why don't they just, threaten him with a gun or just come all together?
Sometimes that doesn't work.
Well, maybe they didn't want to have another body, or sometimes it didn't work. They didn't want them to be, it was a way to not even put more highlight on, because even if you threaten him,
yeah,
he could have gone to the cops. Like, I've just been threatened. And that's going to put more highlight in what you don't want. So if you're like, look, if we can make it where he looks crazy, but we scare him, people are not going to take him serious to begin with. Interesting. I like that.
And a lot of the things my uncle was a mob enforcer back in the day.
Yeah.
Sure, he could tear you limb from limb.
Yeah.
Some of the easiest things and the stuff he told me, the easiest ways to get people to do was to persuade them that it was in their best nature.
Yeah, to not do it.
I'm not threatening you.
Right.
But for you,
right,
this is the best thing for you to do.
Right.
Like, it's almost their idea to give up the money.
That makes sense. So this goes right perfectly into the next story that we have, and it's a gentleman named Paul Benowitz. Now, Paul Benowitz's story is a little different than the ones we heard, but not so much so. So Paul Benowitz, right. During the 70s, Paul, he was a pilot, and I think he was probably for the military, but years before anything. But he was a pilot, and he lived in Arizona. He lived off of in 1979. He lived by the Kirkland Air Force Base in New Mexico. So April of '79, he started. He liked to listen into the channels of the Air Force Base. He started getting some weird signals and weird channels that he didn't recognize on the thing. So he started recording them, and he started calling into their Kirkland Air Force Base, like, hey, I'm getting some weird stuff that I'm hearing from you. Because I didn't get into exactly what he was hearing, but it's enough for him as a known pilot that it was something out of the ordinary that he heard. Which
is very legal to do. Don't listen in on Air Force Base stuff.
Right. So the Air Force Base took this in, and supposedly the Air Force Base, without telling him, he was listening into some top secret channels, which he shouldn't have been able to get into.
Yeah.
So these guys heard this. So instead, for some reason, instead of telling him, hey, don't do that, they decided, like, okay, we're going to mess with this guy a little bit. Their whole thing is, and their whole mantra was kind of at him, like, look, we're going to have this guy, we're going to start feeding this guy false information because he's getting into channels he's not supposed to. So we're going to feed him a bunch of shit just to make him look crazy. So if he says anything to anybody, nobody's going to believe him.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, if they know someone's on the channel, they're automatically switch the channel.
Right.
So that everyone knows that channel's dead now.
Yeah.
So if they don't want this guy looking for the new channel, why not keep that channel open and just fuck with him?
Right. So there was these two Air Force Special Intelligence guys named William Moore and Richard Doty. Now, you guys might have heard that name from the Richard Doty guys come out later on, and he kind of said this is exactly what he did to Paul Benowitz. So they fed him a bunch of false information about alien attacks, about alien stuff and alien bases and all this. They just fed him a bunch of stuff where it kind of drove Paul Benowitz. Unfortunately, it drove the dude crazy.
Yeah,
he had to put him in a mental asylum. I think so. They had to. If not, but they
I think it was
they drove to a mental asylum for at least a month.
Exactly.
Yeah, and his family. At one point, Paul thought his wife was a alien and stuff like that. I mean, they filmed so much false stuff because they were official Air Force people said there to help him, to feed him from. Doty was pretending because I pretended to be his friend. I pretended I was going to feed him secret information he's not supposed to have. So obviously, if you're getting into the stuff and it looks like feeding Paul all this information and you're getting secret information from actual Air Force people you think are trying to help you, he believed all of it. So it kind of drove him to, unfortunately, a mental health breakdown, and he died. And I forget exactly how he died, but he was not pleasant. And his last few days were
a little bit rough.
He was kooky because he thought everybody at that point was aliens and out to get to him.
This one's more straightforward to me. Like I believe it 100%.
Right. And this is one of the cases that actually has like a paper trail. So people can be like, well, this guy, Richard Doty, could be just saying crap and everything. But it's actual, like, if you look in, you can see that this Benowitz was put into the mental institution, what Benowitz was saying to his family and just other problems that he had. So it's kind of a laid out actual paper trail case of
Yeah.
of a Men in Black. And don't get me wrong, these Doty and Moore guys, they're Men in Black. They're people.
Well,
except they weren't telling him to shut up. They were just feeding him false information. They're government agents. They're agents.
Yeah.
Whether what part they're from.
They could have been
misleading him.
Yeah. You got like Air Force has special units.
Yeah.
That don't have names. They
Right.
don't, and they have certain jobs to do. And I
Right.
think one of them would be to mess with whoever's messing with their frequencies.
Well, don't get me wrong.
Get them off.
I'm
and
sure
maybe this was just a really smart ploy to do it.
if Moore and Doty's upper said like, get rid of this guy or threaten him until he stops, they would have done that. They would have done anything they had, but their orders were to just feed him false information. So
Yeah, I mean that's the easier way than threatening somebody.
right. I mean, it's
Because he still thinks he's tapped into the thing, right? Like
I think he kind of became a science experiment to him because after a while, so many years, I'm like, man, wouldn't it have been just easier
How can we
to
break
threaten him? Exactly. And so how can they break him? So it's kind of interesting the interest they took in him, and because this was years of the making. This wasn't like just a one-time thing. This guy pretended to be something. So
not the first time they did crazy experiments like
maybe
that.
they were thinking this Benowitz would go to other UFO people and feed this information and make them discredit them. Like maybe they were planting him as the what do you call it, like patient zero aspect
and see
set
how
him off
far it
into
can go.
and see this information. So when these people start spreading his disinformation,
Very
it goes
well
on, and then they can later on people go like, no, that's stupid. That's not true.
Well, this was around the time though they're doing a lot of psychological experiments.
This is the 80s, this Cold War stuff. This kind of fits into it. So I guess so. I just was trying to disinformation nexus of send this guy off and as the typhoid Mary basically of the UFO groups and spread all this bad information and let it spread, and that way they're off.
I would also like to see like if Paul Benowitz had a mental breakdown before this.
Right. Was he?
And maybe they saw that and they went, hey, we can break this guy real easy.
I know he was in the military beforehand, so maybe they did. Maybe they had that. They go, look, this guy's a little off.
He might have got
so we start feeding him some information, and because pretty sure he was probably into UFO stuff anyways.
Yeah, I'm sure he was.
So if we start feeding him stuff, he'll go to these groups and they start feeding this false information. So any of these guys are getting close to stuff that we don't want to get to.
Yeah.
We can discredit him with like, well, look, this guy says this and this, and aliens and all that and stuff.
And I'm getting it from the Air Force Base.
Anyway, but it's a sad story because it drove this dude nuts, and it drove him.
He went a little,
It went crazy. They had to put him into an institution. His family had, issues with him stuff. So that's kind of all these are not good stories. Basically, they just what the Men in Black governmental guys will do.
Yeah, like I said, it's not the movie.
Yeah, no, it's not.
You don't get mind wiped and have a great day.
Yeah, so let's go with the next person. And obviously, guys, there are probably a lot of stories we're missing up. There is a story of a gentleman that was we saw on that show, a history show, and if we forget his name, we'll probably get his name posted here. He had some documentation, right?
Okay, so this guy, he had some documentation about a certain thing going on, and he went out of town.
Yeah.
He left it at his house, and he got a random phone call in his hotel room.
Right.
And the guy was
asking about him.
Yeah, he goes, did you have the documentation? He goes, yeah, I have it. And he goes, did you bring it with you? And he goes, no, I left it in my house. And when he got back, he found out his house was broken into, and the only thing they took was the documentation.
He said, as soon as he said, I left it at my house, he finally like, why did I say that?
Oh, shit, yeah, like I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah. And when we went back, all the stuff was kind of, and I forget again. We were trying to look for his name again.
Yeah, we were trying to get more of his story. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Which is another instance of stuff getting taken, of people calling and taking UFO, and he's like an amateur UFO guy, kind of.
Yeah, he's just an amateur guy. Right. I think he stumbled onto something that he saw or something
that he's not sure. Sometimes people are like, I don't even know how they knew how I got this stuff. So
that's the real question.
So I'm kind of thinking sometimes if there's like certain stuff that's going out there, and if someone starts poking into it, they right away know.
Yeah, but what about the Puget Sound thing?
That's weird. Maybe they knew. Maybe they were looking at him.
Or maybe the guy that he told started talking.
Maybe.
And that got around.
There, right. Or they could have just been like, they were looking at it. They knew from far away, like, okay, we see that guy, follow that guy. What's he doing?
True.
It could have been
the guy that drove into a UFO.
But these guys,
he might have been an alcoholic, honestly, and he might have just been telling everybody.
Right, exactly. Instead of getting
because we don't really know these people. We don't know what they're like. We're just getting the story of what.
These are all hearsay stuff, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I said the Paul Benowitz is interesting because there's actual paper trail of what happened to him. There's actually other people that come out like,
but
this is
I
what
don't
happened.
push that past the government at all.
Exactly. So the next person we're going to come up with is actually somebody everybody knows.
Yep.
It's actor Dan Aykroyd. So Dan Aykroyd, if you don't know, he is huge into paranormal and UFO stuff. He has experienced both the UFO sightings, and he has experienced like kind of ghost stuff. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
guys.
even like his vodka is after like a skull vodka type of thing.
So it's totally down there. He's the nexus behind his story of the Ghostbusters. That was written by him and Harold Ramis, but that was a story about him.
Nice.
He's the one that kind of started that, and where Ramis came and helped change the story. But that was from Dan Aykroyd. He's big into that. So he in early 2000 and 2002, 2001, he was filming a show called Out There, and it was all about paranormal investigation and stuff. And it was supposed to be like an 8 or 10 episode starting.
And they were just going through and
and they had filmed just about all of it. They had like 6 or 7 episodes done, and he said, well, during the shoot one time, he was kind of taking a break. He went out and he was taking a smoke out in I think it was L.A. whatever it was, but he kind of noticed this guy kind of staring at him, kind of standing outside the car.
Well, you said the car pulled up. Guy got out. A big guy got out and just started staring at him.
Now, obviously, this is Dan Aykroyd. It could have just been like, that guy's like, hey, that's Dan Aykroyd. But
could be.
I think the way Dan Aykroyd tells it, it's more of a,
he knows if
it's a fan or if it's intimidating.
Yeah, he said it was more intimidating.
Like this guy's kind of staring him down.
And he said the guy was in an all-black suit.
Yeah.
You know, the normal
dark car, exactly.
Sunglasses.
So he kind of looks at Dan Aykroyd, looks away for a few seconds.
Just a second.
Yeah. And I don't know how long it was. Even if it was 10 seconds, looks back and the guy in the car is gone.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, that's weird. He didn't think too much about it at the time. So it goes back in, and I don't know if it's from the same day or
no, he said it was the same day. He walked back in.
Yeah, for finish up the shoot, producing whatever
they
they're
were
doing.
filming a little bit, and then I think the producer walked up and he said, "Hey, we're done. We're not doing this no more, and we're not going to release any of the episodes."
Yeah, he goes, "Well, can we release what we put?" He's like, "No," and they're like, "Why?" And they wouldn't give him a reason. It's like, "No, we're done." They said, "We're not because we don't know. It's from above. We can't."
They just don't want to do this.
They don't want to do this anymore. There's no more money. And they don't want to release any of the episodes because we had 6 episodes that were, I think it was like 6 episodes that were fully done and ready to go. We could have just put it out because and no one's ever seen it. That show's never been on. So I don't know. I don't remember. There's a few interviews with Dan Aykroyd. I don't remember if he talked about which episodes they were, what was on them or not. But whatever it was,
that'd be interesting. What did he stumble across?
Right.
To make them do that.
So he said basically, So he had run in with Men in Black of all people,
and he said that that wasn't just the first time. There was a couple of times where he saw men kind of staring at him during the
shooting and stuff.
And he goes, but that one was interesting because that happened
right before.
Literally, like an hour later, they just shut it all down.
They shut everything down. Interesting, and if you can look him up and hear that story, it is pretty interesting. All right, now we go to. Actually, for the next story comes up with first video evidence.
Video evidence.
Exactly. So on October 14th, 2008, Niagara Falls.
I forgot what these two guys stumbled upon, though.
A hotel manager, and I forget what hotel it was. I don't know if they even said it. Shane Sovar, along with security guard, had seen a large triangle-shaped UFO.
Yeah.
Right above kind of in the hotel area. He had the UFO investigation team, APIT, Aerial Phenomenal Investigation Team, and they found that witnesses had okay, so these two guys saw something. They called in this little investigation team to investigate it. What happened within days or the next day or so afterwards, they had these 2 men in black visit the hotel.
And this is interesting. Both the security guard and the manager weren't working.
Right. So these men supposedly came in. They were the same height. They're pretty tall.
They said it was
same
big
build,
guys.
Big guys.
I don't
came
know.
in, started asking everybody where these guys were at. Started
harassing people too.
Harassing people. Started going through everybody, like all the, like they're looking for something. They started looking through their stuff there and started rummaging.
They went through the office. They went,
Kind of intimidating a bunch of people, asking them where these guys at. Were then the guys like, I don't know. They're off today, and they were getting kind of scared of these guys. The interesting about these guys is that the hotel cameras for the door caught these 2 men in black suits coming in.
Yeah.
So if we have the first time I'd seen that was on BuzzFeed Unsolved. Ryan Bergara, him and this other. It wasn't Shane at the time. They have I forgot what series it is.
It was Nick or something like that. Yeah.
Right. And they show the video. You can see the video online too. It doesn't have to be that, but it shows the video of these 2 guys walking in. And everyone else claims like these guys are giant. I'm like, well, they weren't giant. They were just larger men.
There's a guy right next to him
that was
doing something,
right.
And these 2 guys walked behind him, and I was like,
that guy could have been short. The other guy could have been short. Could have been my height. You know, like
I'm
5'5".
thinking,
Right.
but if you look at the door frame, they're not that big.
No, again, like 6'1", 6'2".
They're normal size. Like, they're
not
larger.
Not abnormally large.
Yeah.
Some people are like, well, they were 7 feet. I'm like, they did not look that big. They didn't. But
7-foot guy would have walked into that door frame.
Would have had to duck under. Yeah, for sure. 6'4", 6'2". It's still a big guy. Yeah, it's still a large guy, but that's not abnormal. You see that all the time. But anyways, these guys go in, they were intimidating, asking where they were at. We're in identical suits. They look the same. They look identical. The whole shebang, and then they left after they didn't. And I didn't get any more of a story after that. I don't know if these guys came back. They never came back.
Yeah,
actually.
kind of.
I did hear that they never came back to look for him or anything. That kind of story just died after that. But
but he didn't have a. They didn't. They just saw something. They didn't have evidence. They didn't have.
And I think they were when they went in, they were kind of looking through to make sure that there was no evidence or anything.
And didn't someone say they felt like the people were like they knew what they were thinking, kind of
something like that?
It was
it's
like
always
weird,
a telepathic thing with men.
One of the girls like, this guy kind of knew what I was thinking,
right?
And yeah, he was very intimidating and scary.
I'll put the video here. I'll try to find it for you guys, but you can see it. And it's just It's just two men walking into a building, but it is the first kind of video evidence of it. Could it be just two businessmen coming in? Sure.
I will say this: they were in a more hasteful walk,
yes,
than if they were going to go check in.
Right. It is right. Exactly. So and we'll see it. And you guys see it for yourself. So what is it? Let's go over the look of before we take our take on it.
There's also the more hardcore stories that we definitely don't believe.
Right.
But like we were watching one on the History Channel.
Yeah.
And I feel like they were just trying to get the shock and awe value.
They are, right.
And one story I definitely don't believe. The other one, I think they were just getting too close to something like Area 51.
Gotcha.
But the one that really, I was like, dude, you gotta fucking be kidding me.
And it's enough we're not gonna name any names because the stories were kind of goofy, but the guy was, what did he say? He shot his son or?
Yeah, so he said he saw something.
Yeah.
And then like 2 days later, it was his birthday.
Yeah.
And someone walked up with a .38 and shot his son in the head.
But his son lived.
Somehow.
Yeah. So here's the thing about the Men in Black. If you heard all these stories, everything's good. They've never produced any weapon.
Anybody.
They never killed anybody. It's always been light, threatening, or not even light, just threatening, and that's it. But no one's ever come up with a gun, nothing. So obviously,
this dude said something. They go, we never saw who it was. I think it was outside his house,
something like that, right?
And that one, I was just like, dude, I think you just were getting into weird thing, like.
Maybe.
I don't know. Right. Like your son had an enemy or something. I don't know.
And your son didn't live when someone shoots him. Well, I guess there's no case that happened.
There's definitely people that have lived for.
But I don't think that's Men in Black at all. That's just,
But they said they shot him in the side of the head with a .38. I don't know.
I'm just going to say, that's definitely, to me, that's definitely not Men in Black. Because again, they never use weapons. And I'm just going to say his whole story is bullshit, just for whatever. But that's just me.
I believe his son got shot.
Yeah.
I just don't believe
his son got shot and got hurt. That sucks, but I don't think that's.
Yeah, I don't think it was because you saw something.
And the other one, these guys have. So the show was. It was. I'll put the name of the show too and everything. It was an episode that we were studying into it and looking into it. That they were doing all these different stories and I forget these two guys that are out.
No, there was three guys. They're going out to the desert to look up some UFO stuff.
Yeah,
and
near an Air Force base or near a base or.
So what it was from what I remember, they said that the area they're near is like the second Area 51.
Yeah.
It's like the new Area 51.
Gotcha.
So
it's like people who go and hang out near Area 51, going out just to see things. That's basically what you do, but it was another area.
If you go anywhere near Area 51, if you go past it, you're going to get stopped immediately.
Oh yeah.
Like they don't fuck around.
Right.
And so this guy was they were at a diner and they were talking and some guy came up to him and he goes, hey, yeah, you guys, what are you guys doing? And he goes, oh, we're going to go out and look for UFOs. There was some sightings out here. And the guy goes, oh, and then he goes, you guys got guns? And he goes, yeah, of course we all got guns. And I think the guys were like old ex-military.
Yeah.
And
so they're all ex-military.
The guy kind of was like, oh, okay, good. You should. And then he just walked off. And so the next day they're driving down this dirt road. And then the guy looked in the back, like the rear view, and this car is just hauling ass.
Coming up on him, right.
And they said it was a sedan, a black sedan with no
signs or no signals on them. Yeah.
And so the guy slowed down so they could pass, and then the car slowed down.
Yeah, start behind him.
And so he slowed down more, and the car slowed down. And then finally, the guy in the passenger seat got pissed off.
He's like, "Fuck this shit!"
He goes, "Just fucking pull over."
Yeah,
I'm done with this. And they got out.
One of them got out. The other guy, the driver, stayed in the seat, looking in his review, looking in the side.
Yeah, watching.
He goes, "I have my gun ready." Yeah.
And so the guy got out. I don't remember if the guys in the car got out.
One of them got out. Kind of, but by his car, he didn't come out. He kind of stood. He opened the door. And kind of stood.
I forgot what they said, but it was like this weird
exchange. Like, oh, what he said. Because kind of demanding, like, what are you guys doing here? And then the guy's like, who the fuck are you? He goes, like, or he goes asking him who you guys are.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, who are you? And he goes, don't worry about that. Kind of like brushing him off, like, don't worry who we are. And he's well, no, because I'm not going to fucking listen to what you say, basically.
And then,
because there was no thing to say that they were policemen. They didn't claim to be any kind of law enforcement or anything.
Showed up.
Right.
But if you're running next to the next Area 51,
they're going to, yeah. The only part of the story in which they could be full of shit is that usually Area 51, they'll tell you, hey, you're not allowed to be here.
You get rolled up on by military.
You know there's military guys. You know what they want. And they will be, I don't know if they're...
Yeah.
This is just more of a...
Well, this is my thinking. Area 51 is already established.
So it's no, I see where you're going.
So they have military around there. So now you know who you're running into.
Yeah.
If it's a new area, why would they post military up to warn you?
Right.
I wouldn't do that.
Right.
I'd keep it as quiet as possible. And you're not going to get rolled up on military.
This is why I say I don't think there's anything in Area 51 because everybody knows that other area.
Oh, there's definitely no.
You're going to put something. You're going to put it in an area that nobody knows about. And it's probably right under our feet. You never know. Yeah.
I think
use Area 51 as the red herring or whatever you want to call it. That people think like, hey, look, this is where we got stuff over here. So.
I think at one time there was something.
Yeah.
And now I think
when everybody found out, they moved it.
Yeah, I think they're doing like experimental drones and stuff, and that's why you see things on the fly. You know.
Anyways, so that's that story. There, guys.
So this guy got rolled up on, and then they left.
Right.
And while they were doing the interview, these Chinooks fly over.
Yeah, it's helicopters basically.
The guy's like, "Oh no, I was in Chinooks all these years, and they're supposed to be olive green, and they don't have tail, and they were black Chinooks." And they were like trying to get the most out of this story. I'm like, dude, that could have been just a training
running
thing
maneuvers.
Going on.
Yeah, it was just flying over. They're by an Air Force base, basically. I mean, it's right. It was trying for. It was pretty.
They were really pushing it.
Right, exactly. Trying to get information. So this show, as entertaining as it was, and they did have that. They did show the photo of that one guy had from the '60s and everything,
which was interesting.
And a few other stories. They had one guy coming in talking about different levels in the government, and the president. There's like 20 levels above the president, which I'm always like, well, they're so top secret. How the fuck do you know about him? I forget who he was, but. Saying that, I believe that's true. There's probably so many levels that even the president is not. They don't. I don't know if it's above him, just different arms that he doesn't know about, and I think that's just government in general.
I remember I was just studying up on this. There was something going on in World War II, and they have contingency plans that the president has zero idea that even exist until it pops up.
Right.
And then they go, "Hey, this is what's going to happen."
Well.
And he goes, oh, shit, okay, why is this even a plan? He goes, well, we have plans for everything.
Right. And they say they do this for deniability, plausible deniability. Yeah. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. So if they ask President, do you know about this? He really doesn't. He's like, or him, whatever. They're like, I have no fucking clue, but they really don't because the government sets it up so much that if you don't know, then you can't talk about it or you can deny it and you'll be true, basically.
And plus, anyway, like there's so much shit that they got going on running that government. You can't know all of it.
No. You probably don't want to if you want to sleep at night.
No.
So we're going in. So let's go into so that's some of the. There's a bunch of stories, a bunch of stuff. We did some of the more popular ones.
Yeah, the more interesting ones.
Right, and there's a lot more details. A lot of the stories are going into that. It's hard to get into, guys. There's a lot of stuff going on. I tried to start reading a book, and I forgot what book it was.
You said you were getting bored of it.
It was kind of written like a textbook a little bit. It was hard to read, and when we do our dives, we try not to get into books because first of all, I don't have the time to go through it.
Yeah,
a lot of the times these books are 200 or 300 pages, which I can't get through that fast. We're working. We got full-time jobs. We got wives and kids and stuff. So we do online stuff and everything. But so there's a lot more to it. And if we forgot anything, if we forgot any details of some of the stuff, a lot of stuff we kind of overlooked.
Please forgive us.
Right. It's hard to get information. We're still learning how to do our homework and get some of the stuff going on without having to dive in books. I know books have a lot of stuff, but then again, remember, like Gray Barker, some of these books they put out there, some of these guys are just trying to spice it up. Now, some of them might be based in truth, but they're spicing it up a little bit to make it a little,
because they got to sell.
Spice. They got to sell and stuff. So not saying they're exactly full of shit, but a lot of the details could be added in to spice it up a bit. So the basic, like when you watch this movie was based on a true story. The true story, how much of it's a true story and how much 20%. Is kind of Hollywooded up. Exactly, basically, yeah. So, but we're trying to get actual stuff. So let's get into the looks of these guys before we start getting our take on it. So it's different men in black when they start describing them. And the looks of them. So a lot of them describe these guys looking as what you think a government official, army based. They took them from the army,
like straight out of the war type
flat
thing.
top. They always have like the close cut. They always get their big muscular build. They like a taller guy.
Sunglasses.
Not overly muscular. They always hear these guys kind of thin.
Yeah, but no. If you think about it though,
Yeah.
You're going from the 40s, 60s, and 80s where what we know as muscular now, completely different builds. They didn't have all the drugs where all these guys are, 50, 60 pounds
and maybe
heavier
they didn't
than
want
should
them
be.
that big. Maybe they didn't want them that big.
I think they want more of
a tall,
like a military.
Yes.
Military strong, where you have extra muscle on you, but you're very athletic.
Right.
You're not going to be hampered down.
As far as the, so that makes sense and taller. As far as the look, it kind of changes. A lot of it is the pasty white.
That one was a real odd one with the guy.
So that's what the story gets. The stories get a little weird. Some of them are pasty, kind of zombie-like, where they had that guy from Hopkins and machine looking.
Yeah.
Other ones are like olive skin, kind of Middle Eastern looking. I've heard some say look like Asian looking.
I'm not sure. The picture that we saw looked like a black features with Asian eyes.
On that show they had a sketch artist, kind of sketching some of the people's stories.
This was interesting though. They had 3 different sketches from 3 different generations.
Yeah.
And they all had the same guy.
Right. I kind of think,
unless they get the same looking people.
I think it's kind of like the Blue Man Group. They try to get everybody looking the same. They want everybody the same.
It's more
close to the same height. Yes, to keep that story going.
Yeah.
Whether it be false information, whether it be real, they wanted to keep it the same to keep people off kilter, to keep intimidation factors. Like this is the same person from 30 years ago. It's intimidating. Like this guy is still around. Like he hasn't aged, at all. So I think
it could be that, or if something did happen and they let's say the guy got in trouble.
Yeah.
And got caught.
Right.
And they go, well, like they're on a jury and he goes, well, I have an alibi. I was in New York.
And then you have like 5 other guys like, well, look, I have this.
Yeah, I was in New York.
There's all these guys like that. Right. They put them on a lineup. They all look the same.
Yeah. That could be.
Exactly. So,
and it's always either a black suit or a dark navy suit.
Dark navy suit. I did hear one say dark hunter green, but it's always a dark suit.
Yeah.
The car is always dark.
That's the weird thing to me. Why even take off the insignia?
I don't know.
Because you can tell what fucking car it is, especially if you're a car guy. You can go down by the fucking year.
For me, a lot of times it would look like a lot of these UFO people don't know the type of car. Like I don't know cars enough where I would know what type of car it would be.
You would know a sedan.
Probably, yes.
The black sedan.
Right. So they usually say it's kind of Mercedes-ish sometimes, or like an old school car, whatever. They don't know, but it's a sedan.
Yeah, it's a black sedan.
But I think that adds on to the whole mystique of it. Yeah, it kind of throws people off. I mean, it's supposed to be intimidating, and that's just the look of it and the feel of their tone. Sometimes it's scarier when you're not angry, but you're just kind of, like this guy talked about, it's like, he's telling me stuff I'm going to do, not by intimidation, just in matter of fact that I'm going to do it.
Yeah, but
so you're going to destroy those tapes. You're going to get rid of all documentation, and I don't have to come back here.
Yeah, but that's a technique, though.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
That's just a technique.
That's more intimidating than like you are going to, or just
because that's you're not in control of the situation.
Right,
the person's telling you.
Right,
it's
the
like
person is so calm and confident.
That's like when you meet like a big time mob boss or something.
Yeah,
and they go, you're going to go kill this guy and you're going to do this and you'll be fine at it. And the guy goes, okay, I guess I'm doing this.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, we're going to do it. I believe in this.
It's a psychological, I mean, these government guys, they know all about mind fucks and they know how to control you, obviously. So,
and they also have, some people say they have a card that has like a little emblem in it and it just says security.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, exactly. A lot of them said that there's never anything on them that says on their identity.
No,
it's usually just that card that says security.
I put like, any idea in it just to fuck with people.
Yeah, right. Right, exactly.
Or do it like in weird writing, so you're like, is that MIB or is that ESB?
I want somebody to grab one of those cards. I know they probably don't let them go, so let me see that card. I want that card.
I want it. What if you're like a weird person? You're like,
I want it.
I'm not going to stop unless you give me that card.
Right.
Give it to me now.
Let's give our take on this whole thing, man. What do we think about this whole thing? The people these are government agents. These are aliens. These are other dimensional people. These are time travelers. These are what do we think they are? What is going on here? Now, I'm going to say off the bat, I do believe there's such thing as men in black.
100%.
Yeah. I think they are part of a government agency that is unknown to, it's one of those secret black ops agencies that go on.
Yeah, like a CIA. You know how many agencies CIA has that you have no idea exist?
What are they protecting? Now, everyone I've talked to a few people like, you don't believe UFOs? Like, oh, no, not that I don't believe UFOs. I don't know how much information out there we have is true. So these guys there's enough stories, enough stuff happening, enough that us knowing the government that this to me seems true enough that there are certain things that people find out there whether it be UFOs or whether it be top secret stuff, programs that they're not supposed to be diving into, that they would send these guys out there to, at this point, now that Men in Black are kind of known to fuck with people and be like, hey, the stuff that you don't have anymore. So people are like, well, sometimes they have stuff that I didn't tell anybody about. I think they have enough monitor on stuff going out that if someone starts poking their nose around, whether it be online, obviously online, or just that they would know.
Back in the 60s and 70s, that's where I'm looking at.
Right. Well, I think they would just have people on the watch so they know that if someone's talking. Sometimes people say, well, I didn't say anything to anybody. Well, maybe you did. Or maybe someone was watching you look at something, from far away. They could be just looking like, oh, we got somebody over here.
That guy looks a little suspicious.
Yeah, a little suspicious, right.
And
that they're watching.
Talk to him.
Keep an eye on you. The Bender thing, he had made business cards. They said, well, and even Gray Barker's like, well, they found a guy in Florida at the time with your card on you. And he was kind of distraught or something like that. And he goes, but somehow this information got out. I'm like, well, somebody saw the card. Somebody flashed the card to somebody. Led to something else that...
You know how people talk.
Right. Yeah, and so I think there is a agency out there, people coming in, and that these guys are sending people in to keep people quiet with certain information that they have. I think that's all true. Maybe they might be playing up this whole Men in Black mantra, the Hopkins one. You're right. They could have said somebody in there to go in there, and people are asking, well, why would they go through all these theatrics? Well, to make these guys look... Because sometimes you intimidate people and you threaten them. It doesn't always work.
Yeah, it just makes it worse.
So if you do something to make them look a little cuckoo, have a story that's really cuckoo, people are going to look at them like, all right, dude, whatever, man. Okay, yeah. What are you studying now? That dude was abducted? Sure, just like your Men in Black thing? Okay, no problem. Well, so it kind of discredits them. Yeah. Like they did with Paul Benowitz was the perfect thing. That's why I brought that story up. It features so much crap.
Yeah, but that
look
made
crazy.
Complete sense to me.
Right. But so that goes along with all these other stories about people coming in. So it seems like earlier on, like with the Bender thing, they had these guys come in and say, you're not going to talk about this anymore. Now, Gray Barker comes in and says something about guys floating in the second visit. I think that might have been punched up a little bit. But I think the initial visit by Bender was true.
Let's just say Bender, it's the guy fucking with Bender.
And Bender's the guy who started the 1950s group and everything.
Yeah, but let's just say the guy that was kind of calling the other members and was like, I'm Men in Black.
Oh, yeah.
Let's just say he's fucking with Bender and he figured out how to do a little ruse with two guys and to freak him out.
Yeah. Again, I'm thinking maybe Gray Barker was a Men in Black himself. He was a government agent himself.
Could have been.
Undercover.
Or he could have just been a writer that just wanted a good story to write.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what
he went
other people
above and beyond.
Other people had suspected, read about, like, suspect that he was just doing this for a good story and he punched it up to do
so.
it.
Writers have done a lot less, man.
Exactly. That's true. And government caught a hold of that from that book that he wrote and said, that's not a bad idea. We'll start going in.
Yeah, we can do this too.
So instead of going and we start intimidating people, we'll pretend to be like these Men in Black and go through with them. And we get people kind of like the Blue Man Group. We'll hire people that look the same. The only thing that changes is like the skin complexion. Sometimes it's pasty. Sometimes they look olive skin. A few times it's an Asian. I don't know. So maybe they're trying to get people, but I think they're trying to get people same built and things.
Sometimes they're robotic. Sometimes they're human-like.
Because the government's not dumb. They hear these stories. They go, look, this sounds crazy. If we keep with this, it make these guys sound nuts. So we don't have to really physically do anything to them. We just make them look like they're fucking batshit, and people won't listen to them.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happened, basically.
Look, you're already talking about aliens,
right?
Which people don't take serious,
right?
So you already got that going against you.
Yes.
And then if you're coming up with a really crazy story,
right?
I got visited by these people, and they told me you better not say anything.
I could swear they weren't human. They were acting inhuman. They were acting weird.
Well, my first thing is if someone walked up to me and was like if you came up to me tomorrow and you're like, yo, look, remember that thing we saw? Two guys showed up at my house, and they were saying some weird stuff, and they go, if you talk about this, something bad is gonna happen.
Right.
And I'm like, first thing I look at you, I'm like, why are you telling me this?
Yeah, I don't want to know that. Right.
Like, why? Like, okay, one, why are you bringing me into this?
Right. I don't want to know anything about this.
I don't want this to happen to me. But it's just, I look at it and I see a lot of, especially you going from the 40s to the 80s where we had a lot of technology coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And they did a lot of things to keep it quiet.
Yep.
So let's just say Harold Dahl in 47, maybe he saw a plane he shouldn't have seen.
Yeah.
That they were gonna, that they were using to who knows what they were doing.
It was just after the World War II and they were.
And just, it sucked, it broke apart and it landed on him.
Right.
and then now his buddy's in it.
Yeah.
And then now you're getting these guys that came out and they go, we got to make sure these guys don't
say
talk
anything about it,
because
yeah.
we need this under wraps.
Right.
I could see that.
Okay.
In
Yeah.
the 80s. Well, the New York one, honestly, I think either that dude owed money or that guy was just...
The one
that
with
was
the
his-
picture?
yeah,
Yeah,
I
in
think
New Jersey, yeah,
Who
right.
knows? Maybe that was just
Right.
his break spot.
Well, that one was weird because the guy who took the photo, he's like skimming it back. It really, I'll put the photo here again. It just looked like it just looks like a person
Leaning up against the wall.
Look, it could have been in black, but the photo's so basic. It just looks like some person hanging outside the thing, which
Yeah.
I got to take it as that.
People get real paranoid.
Yeah.
And who's to say that guy wasn't taking a 30-minute break or an hour break and then going
Same
back
time
in
every day. Yeah.
and then they're saying, "Oh, he's out there all day long." And
Yeah.
I've heard people do that where they're
right.
like, the guy was like, "No, he was there for 5 minutes. I
Right.
watched him." And no, he was there for 8 hours, and I saw him. And
Or he could have been a government official. If the guy was touching on something, he's just out there just to intimidate him. You know, we don't know though.
We don't know the
picture
whole
is just
backstories.
But just to sit there and claim like this is a Men in Black, and I go, it's a man in a black suit. I don't know if it's an actual government agency. I don't know if it's other dimensional. I don't know if it's an alien or not. It's too basic of an. So it's hard with the proof sometimes out there. Kind of like the proof with the video of those guys. Could have been just two guys in the suits coming in that happened to be the same size that kind of conveniently showed up, right after that story of those guys happening. Sure. I mean, it is a hotel. There's people do come in a lot.
okay, I just thought about this. It's a hotel.
Yeah.
Those two guys just saw something.
Yeah.
That was it.
Right.
Why are these two guys going in the office, rummaging through things, looking for
Right.
things?
Well, right.
There was
exactly.
no evidence.
Right. That's the witnesses.
So-
Yeah.
And the people they called is a known organization.
Yes.
It's not like they called some secret organization to
No,
come
it's
do
a known
this.
organization that's out there.
So they didn't have to go look for a number.
Yeah.
That they could find the number.
Right.
So you're in a hotel. What if the security guard and the manager stumbled across something going on in the hotel with a high priority guest?
Yeah.
And that's what they were covering up.
Maybe.
Maybe they had info on that guest or maybe the incident that happened and
Yeah.
they came in to take that out.
Yeah. Yeah. It could have been a lot of stuff doing there. Right.
Because
Yeah,
those
that's
two
true.
those two could have easily been two big goons.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Like that.
I'll show the video there.
And when they're walking in, they
people.
have an intent.
Yeah.
But if you saw something in the sky and maybe they found them later
Yeah.
and they go, you make up a story
Yeah.
because we weren't there.
Yeah.
And if whoever's asking, it's not about that.
Right. All right. So that brings up to, again, my take on it is I do believe the Men in Black, I don't think they're aliens or other dimensional people. I just think they're a regular government agency that played on the story of Men in Black to throw disinformation, just like Paul Benowitz story, just to make these people look out there and look crazy and to discredit them.
That's the easiest way to do
That's the
it.
easiest way to do it. And they could do it without having to actually harm anybody. People are like, why don't they just get rid of these people? Because then you have the whole process of getting rid of them, getting rid of the people they know.
And then
getting
you got
rid of
questions.
it's just too much questions. That they just go like, we'll feed them most false information. We'll make them look crazy. People are like, sure, buddy,
Yeah.
sure that happened.
Oh, that was my crazy
like
uncle.
Bender's friends. I think that was just a dream, man. Like, no, man, this actually happened.
No,
like,
they were floating.
all right, dude, sure, So I do think it's out there. And I think now with all the open transparency that they don't have to use the Men in Black. The open transparency is the Men in Black now to discredit people. Like, you know what I'm saying? The
Yeah.
online stuff is kind of, although if any of us did see something, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a visit for some people saying like, you didn't see that. Like,
Yeah.
well, I didn't say anything about it. Like, don't worry about it. Like that guy said, we know what you know and you didn't see anything. So could still be out there? Yes.
Okay. Well, okay. My take is I think 100% sure. I think there's government agencies, a wide range, not just one, a wide range, even to military that have Men in
Yeah.
Black characters that have to go and cover up
Right.
things. I think that a lot of the pictures, the videos, I think that's a different story
Yeah.
to what they were telling.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them could be hoax. I think that
It's just, I think now everything's flooded so much that they don't worry so much if something comes up because it's going to get lost in the
Yeah.
sea of crap that's out there, which always brings me again, people, please. I mean, nobody gives a shit what I think. Stop putting out fake shit so we
it
can
ruins
actually
it.
get to it. Totally ruins it. But there's so many trolls. There's so many people who want to just get their names and get the likes and get whatever that it ruins the actual real things that are out there. if you put out something that's fake, just say right away, hey, this is fake. I want you to know what you guys think. This is my,
this is a
what
cool take
this is
on
cool
this.
take on it, whatever. But we're not going to do that. We're trying to get the clicks. We're trying to get the likes. We're trying to get the acceptance of everybody. We want to be the first. That word so much we're going to fake it. But if we were all kind of, if we weren't all trolls, I should say, we might actually have some stuff that we can come across and be like, oh, shit, that's real. But now anything you see, you're like, yeah, that's fake.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's fake. And most of it, I can tell it's fake too. And it's sad because sometimes there might be something that might be totally true. And I'm like, oh, that's a total fucking fake.
Yeah.
And that's just but that's the way the government likes it. Maybe that's what they're doing. Just like Richard Doty did. They start feeding all these people this false stuff.
I think Richard Doty was just,
really
he was fucking with something he shouldn't have been fucking with. But
no, well, he's the one that was fucking with Paul Benowitz.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
My thing is, why would they exist today?
Right.
Because the government completely came out and they go, hey, we got UFOs, we got this, we got that.
That's what I mean.
So what are they doing today then? Do they just disband everything?
I don't know.
Because they can't use the same tactics now. Because you'd be like, well, why are you coming to me when the fucking government just showed me the Tic Tac video?
Right. I think they are still around today, but it's only very rare now. Someone who's actually got something they're not supposed to have. Maybe not videos now because that you can discredit.
Unless you have part of a spacecraft.
That's
or
what
something.
I mean. Maybe it's something like special like that. Like they actually got actual something that would go in, and we would never know. Yeah.
But most of the stuff was like, oh, we have documentation of this. You can
Right. Now you don't need it. Exactly.
Yeah, but even back then, you'd be like, oh, that guy's a kook.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean now.
So,
they probably might be around, but it's only for special cases, which they probably very rarely use now. So if they actually...
Yeah. Maybe. Well, what if this whole thing was just a government psychological experiment?
Yeah.
All the way through the years, just to see how susceptible people are to intimidation.
And you think about it, and you got obviously the famous movies. They threw that movie in to even add more speculation, like this is all just hokey. Obviously the movie's from a comic book, but the comic book came from those stories.
Yeah.
Well, they came from the stories from the 50s and 40s, and that's how the comic book and the movie came from the comic books. But that helps, push the notion of this is fiction. Crap, fiction. This is all fiction.
Yeah.
This is what you guys believe. Or you guys believe in like the movie with Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith? All right, whatever.
Because what did they say? Truth is always stranger than fiction.
Right. So there we go. And I like those movies as it is. They're fun to watch anyways.
They're great movies.
But that was just to push a narrative like, this is all fiction, man. You believe in the Men in Black like the movie? All right, whatever. Just to push that. But now, like you said, now with everything out there, now they don't have to because we're just, like I'm saying with the trolls, we're discrediting ourselves. They set the ball rolling and then we just did it to ourselves now.
Yeah. I mean, I believe these people got visited by people.
People are terrible.
Yeah. Anyways. I'm 100% sure these people got visited by people.
Probably.
But I think I don't know, man.
I won't take anything off the table. I won't if they're alien beings. I'm not gonna
take it off the table either.
But my belief is that there's normal government, not normal.
I don't think it's MIB.
Regular people.
Yeah.
MIB, obviously, Men in Black. It's just a government agency that took on the MIB mantra because they're like, this works for us. Let's use it.
Yeah, it's a fictional. Yeah. Fictional whole
these guys
part
got this
of the government.
Bar rolling, this guy,
but
Gray Barker
all the other governments can use it. Yeah. All the other parts of the government can use it and be like, oh yeah,
I think
we
around the
MIB,
world they can use it, and there's been Men in Black around the world, and all the governments are going like, oh, that's not a bad idea. We can do that.
And you're not going to be like, oh, that was the CIA that came to watch. No, you're going to be like, who MIB, and then everyone's like, you're fucking full of shit.
Maybe here's the thing. Maybe it's not even really a governmental thing. Maybe we got higher secret groups going on. Maybe it's a higher secret group that wants to keep us shut down. That's why worldwide you have MIB sometimes, and they can just go across.
Then why haven't they come up to the government and be like, hey, you need to shut this down?
Maybe they don't want to. Maybe they're hiding from them. Maybe they have. And maybe that's why the government doesn't do anything. Like, we're going to do this and you're going to let us. All right. We don't know. It's way above our pay grade. We're not even getting paid for this, so screw you guys.
Yeah, exactly.
This is our time, in essence, here, guys. Actually,
I think it's a cool story, though.
It's a very cool story. It's something that we both believe in. The level of what we think the others might be different, but we're not telling anybody they're wrong of what they believe in or not, because it is very weird stories. It's stuff going out there.
And if you get visited by a Men in Black,
please tell us the story.
Write it and tell us so we can really get
Don't
this
give
going.
us your name though, because we don't want to know. We don't want to get visited by Men in Black ourselves.
No, give me the name. I want them to come to my house.
Exactly.
Hopefully they float.
Maybe we'll get them on the show. That'd be amazing.
It'll be like a catfish.
We'll get to watch it and get our brains.
We'll be doing our podcast when they come in.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Thanks everybody. Hey guys, if you have any stories out there, if anybody ever known that's done that, if you ever been a Men in Black, I mean, if you're ex-government agency or whatever, if you know anything about it,
let us know.
Or if you got any other ideas about any other stuff we could do for the show. Again, sorry it had been such a long time off there. We had run into stuff going on. Stuff called life. You know how that is. Hey, anything else, brother?
No, I think that's it.
Guys, thank you again for tuning in. We will see you next time.
All right. Have a good one.